WWE superstars are basically superheroes brought to life on our screens. However, unlike Hollywood superheroes portrayed in movies, WWE superstars don't have stunt doubles. Their injuries are very real. They're doing this in front of a live audience. There are no second takes. And on top of that, they have to deal with their very real human, physical, and mental limitations. And it's when they break those limitations that it leaves all of us fans completely bewildered as to what we just witnessed. Whether this was caused by a storyline issue or maybe a real life issue, today we're going to be looking at some of the most heroic performances in WWE history. And hey, as always, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, ring the bell for notifications. If you're a wrestling fan, I'm confident you're going to fall in love with this channel. If this is your first time watching, consider subscribing. First, let's start off with Cody Rhodes versus Seth Rollins at Hell in a Cell in 2022. And if a picture were to say 1,000 words, this one would say 1 trillion words, because before the match, Cody Rhodes horrendously injured his pectoral. He tore it right from the bone while doing a bench press just mere hours before the actual match, a match that was scheduled to be the main event in front of one of the rowdiest crowds in wrestling in Chicago. Now, mind you, it's understandable that a WWE superstar might not want to miss that main event because of an injury, but we would have all been okay had Cody Rhodes sat this one out, because look at this. I mean, just when he revealed the injury, you could hear the air be completely sucked out of that entire arena in the complete disbelief that this absolute Chad was about to actually have a match with that gruesome of an injury. Now, here's the thing. When he revealed this injury to the world, we were all virtually expecting this to be a quick 2-minute match where Seth Rollins would just quickly beat him down 1, 2, 3 so that we can send Cody Rhodes to the goddamn hospital, because clearly he needed surgery. But no, this maniac would go on to have a 25-minute match, a 25-minute Hell in a Cell match that had sledgehammers, used the cage as a weapon. It even turned into a quasi strap match at some point, and it would go on to be one of the best matches of the year, coming in at 5 stars from Dave Meltzer, if you care about that sort of thing. And it wasn't as if Cody Rhodes protected himself either. Like, he went all out. Like I said, it turned into a cowbell strap match at one point. He even took a table bump. Like, this man was an absolute maniac to be going through all of this after revealing that gruesome of an injury. I don't know what they did to allow him to go through this match. I don't know if they pumped him full of painkillers, but this man was not just working at a high level, but working at the highest level I've ever seen anyone work. And this man was basically doing it with one arm. He would go on to win the match, but of course would just be brutalized throughout the entire thing. And of course, after this, he needed to take off several months for surgery. But I to this day, I cannot believe that WWE allowed Cody Rhodes to go through with this match, because it's absolutely insane to let someone with that visual of a grotesque injury to, again, not just go out there and grab the mic and say something, but go out there and have a full-blown masterpiece of a Hell in a Cell match, a violent Hell in a Cell match at that, all with one arm, and win. But hey, shocker, this is not the only Hell in a Cell match that we're going to be looking at, because the next spot I have to give this to Mick Foley during his King of the Ring match in 1998 in a Hell in a Cell match versus The Undertaker. I mean, just from hearing the fact that it's a match between Mankind, aka Mick Foley, versus The Undertaker, who was an absolute menace at the time, in a Hell in a Cell match, in a blood feud, you knew this match was going to be violent. But none of us were expecting the true level of brutality that we got, because I dare say that this was the most violent match in WWE history. If not the most violent match, at the very least, we have to agree that it's probably the most dangerous match in WWE history, because Mick Foley would get tossed off the Hell in a Cell like an absolute ragdoll by The Undertaker, and that thing ain't small. That's like 2 stories. That's a big drop. Here's a different angle so that you can see just how hard, oh my goodness, landing on TV monitors and everything. Like, he was an absolute maniac. And this spot here would lead to him getting stretchered off and getting carried off to the back, because it's like, dude, like, this man just got tossed off the side of a Hell in a Cell. It's okay that the match ends in a no contest because of brutality. We understand. We don't need any more. We already got the craziest spot in WWE history. It can't get any crazier, can it? Well, it can, because because as he was getting taken to the back, this absolute Chad and a maniac of Mick Foley takes off the Mankind mask off and goes back in for more while smiling. After having just gone through one of the craziest spots that we've ever seen in WWE history, not just at the time, like even in hindsight, it's still one of the craziest spots to get tossed off the Hell in a Cell like that. And he goes back in for more, only to receive an even worse spot, but this time not planned, and getting tossed through the Hell in a Cell with a choke slam, going right through, hitting the ring at full force, hitting the chair on the way down that lodges his teeth into his nose. Everyone thought that he died at this point. Everyone thought that he died. Look at this iconic photo from the top of the crane here where we see Undertaker probably looking down at what he thought was the corpse of the man that he literally murdered in front of millions of people watching at home. But here's the thing, Mick Foley's a maniac. So not only did he smile and come back for more when he got tossed off the Hell in a Cell, this man smiles with his tooth hanging out of his nose, bloody mouth. Who knows how many internal injuries this man has, and he has the audacity to smile and go through another 10 minutes of a match that includes step spots, includes getting hit with the actual cage, it even includes a thumbtack spot, for God's sake. Like, this was so unnecessary, and yet Mick Foley is that guy. He is that guy. And then gets tombstone and loses. So let's go through all of that again. He gets tossed off the side of the Hell in a Cell, comes back, gets tossed through the Hell in a Cell, gets hit with thumbtacks, gets hits with steps, and then gets hit with a tombstone. He went through all of that when we could have easily believed and been totally understanding and okay if the match ended after he got tossed off the Hell in a Cell the first time, but instead he just kept coming back for more. It kind of reminded me, this might be an obscure reference, and if editor, if you can find the clip of this and put it in real quick, I'll commend you, but it's like the sea bear where Squidward kept getting beat up by the sea bear. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but if you're a SpongeBob fan, you know what I'm talking about. That was an oval, Squidward. It has to be a circle. Look, I think it's fair to say that everyone that we've looked at so far has balls, a lot of balls. And many of you have balls as well, and you need to take care of them, which is why I'm excited to tell you about today's sponsor, Manscape. You see, as many of you know, I'm a very hairy mountain of a man, and it's not always easy to take care and remove the hair that is literally covering me from head to toe. Luckily for me, Manscaped was kind enough to send me their Performance Package 4.0, which came with the Lawnmower 4.0. You see, in my never-ending quest to find safe and efficient body hair removal, I have nicked the family jewels one too many times. Boy, let me tell you, I took the Lawnmower 4.0 into the shower today for a test drive, and I can say with confidence that I've never had smoother, happier balls. Because not only is the Lawnmower 4.0 waterproof, which allows you to take it safely into the shower, but it also comes with this LED light to make sure that you can see inside all of those hairy crevasses. However, my manscaping didn't stop there, because I also got the Weed Whacker 2.0 nose and ear hair trimmer. Now, these two beauties are cordless and rechargeable, and with a battery life of 45 minutes for you truly hairy beasts out there. And their proprietary technology helps reduce nicks, snags, and tugs in those, shall we say, delicate regions. And you can spoil your balls on a whole nother level with the Manscaped Crop Preserver, because did you even know that ball deodorant is a thing? No, you didn't. I didn't. I was walking around with stinky nuts this whole time. I know many of us could have used this during the stress of Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania 39. Not only that, but the Performance Package 4.0 also comes with 2 extra gifts. The Manscaped Anti-Chafing Boxers, which by the way have become my absolute go-to boxers, and the Shed Travel Bag, so that I can now finally look like an adult when I carry around these types of things, not in a plastic Ziploc bag. So fellas, go to manscaped.com today and get 20% off plus free international shipping when you use the code Santi. Again, that's 20% off plus free international shipping when you use the code Santi. Thank you to Manscaped for sponsoring today's video. So basically, up to this point, we've limited the definition of of heroic to somebody that's gone through physical hardship, gone through injury, and continued to go through the match. But there is something to be said about storyline heroicism. Is that a word? Storyline heroicism? I need to look that up. Is that a word? Turns out heroicism is a word. Look at that. I'm so smart. I'm like coming up with words I didn't know existed. In comes Daniel Bryan, who I think is the epitome of storyline heroics. Daniel Bryan had to go through 8 months of literal storyline hell to get to this point. And even by getting to this point, he wasn't given the match that we all wanted, which was him being inserted in the triple threat match with Randy Orton and Batista in the main event of WrestleMania 30. They had to make it even harder for Daniel Bryan, having to beat Triple H in the opening match of WrestleMania 30 to just earn a spot. So he had to open the show in what would go on to be one of the greatest WrestleMania opening matches of all time. 25 minutes. By the way, that main event also went 25 minutes. So Daniel Bryan wrestled over 50 minutes on one show. And again, this match was hard hitting. Like Daniel Bryan had his full moveset. It's not as if he was taking it easy because we knew that he had another match. He really sold the fact that he had to expend every ounce of energy just to beat Triple H. And he got beat down after the match as well. So he had to go into the triple threat main event basically with one arm. And in that WrestleMania main event, he would have to go on to face two bona fide Hall of Famers at the time in Randy Orton and Batista, two guys who were basically chummy enough to make this more or less a 2-on-1 handicap match at some points. A handicap match that would give us brutal moments like this, like Batista doing a Batista bomb on Daniel Bryan and then Randy Orton catching it in midair and turning it into an RKO through the Spanish announce table. Yeah, it was tough. But even though it was basically a 2-on-1, Daniel Bryan would go on to take both of these titans of the industry down and even make Batista tap out, a man that is literally 3 times his size, ultimately culminating in what was dubbed the Miracle on Bourbon Street. This is the epitome of like how you do storyline heroics, and it was one of my favorite moments in WrestleMania history, and I still really genuinely believe it's one of the most heroic single performances by an individual wrestler when it comes to storyline basis in a single night, that being Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania 30. Next is Vince McMahon tearing his quads and absolutely no selling it, okay? This man at the end of the botched 2005 Royal Rumble slides in pure anger, tears both of his quads right from the bone and doesn't sell it. The man is just a stoic, emotionless human. I'd be crying for my mom at this point. And this man is absolutely no selling 2 major injuries happening at the same time that are going to prevent him from walking, that are going to require surgery. I know he's in miserable pain right now, but god damn it, Vince McMahon would never show you weakness and pain. Now let's go back to storyline related heroicism. Let's look at Rey Mysterio winning the Royal Rumble in 2006. I mean, it's a big enough feat to win the Royal Rumble, but it's an even bigger one to do it when you're the smallest guy out of a 30-man field and you have to come in number 2. And it doesn't help that the other person that came out with him at number 1 was the cerebral assassin Triple H. Rey Mysterio would go on to battle for 62 minutes, a Royal Rumble record. And not only was he doing this, of course, for himself so that he could go on to win the title at WrestleMania, but storyline wise, they really sold us that he was doing this for the memory and the legacy of his friend Eddie Guerrero. And there was not a single soul in that building that didn't want Rey Mysterio to win this for Eddie Guerrero. And he would go on to win by eliminating the fastest rising heel at that moment, Randy Orton, in absolutely immaculate Eddie-like fashion. I love this elimination. It's so pristine, it's so well executed, and he managed to do this even after having gone through a 60+ minute match. Like, this man was an absolute stamina machine. I'll keep this one quick because this is just so iconic that everyone knows the story. We have WrestleMania, Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Bret Hart putting on a clinic of a match and demonstrating to the world that you can become a superstar even if you lose a match. Because folks, what we had was a submission match, and Bret Hart had a submission locked in, a submission that was one of the most iconic submissions in the history of professional wrestling. Everyone tapped out to this, but Stone Cold with a bloody face refused to tap out and instead passed out, demonstrating to the world that he really is the most badass son of a bitch on the planet. And Stone Cold walked in a big heel and he walked out as arguably the biggest face in the company. This one's the most near and dear to my heart, the tragic tale of Dominic Mysterio having to battle his absolutely disgusting deadbeat of a father. It all starts with Dominic Mysterio visiting Rey Mysterio for Christmas in an absolutely humble gesture Dominic did not need to do, because if you remember, Dominic had a rough childhood as Rey Mysterio didn't even buy him a Mercedes. He bought him BMW. And his deadbeat father, Rey Mysterio, was just such a conniving, terrible human being that he unnecessarily called the police on his own son, Dominic Mysterio, and sent him to prison to do hard time. But if you can survive hard times and pressure, you become a diamond. And Dominic Mysterio did all of that by coming out of prison a stronger, better version of himself. And even through his legal battles, Dominic Mysterio still showed up to have a match at WrestleMania with his father, a match that he didn't want to have because he didn't want to hurt his dad. As much of a deadbeat as Rey Mysterio was, Dominic still loved him, and he wanted to prove that by letting Rey Mysterio win a match. But rather than being humble and just taking the victory that Dominic was giving him, Rey Mysterio would go on to just humiliate his own son in front of thousands and thousands of people in attendance and millions at home by beating him with a belt, just demonstrating how much of a deadbeat lowlife father he was. And Rey Mysterio would go on to capitalize on his major victory over Dominic Mysterio and capture a United States Championship shortly after beating Dominic. But not to be outdone, even though he went through all of this hardship, even though his deadbeat father became the champion of all of the United States, Dominic would go on to become the champion of all of North America, which includes the United States, thus demonstrating that he is better than his father without having to stoop as low as his father. Dominic is a true inspiration and a true hero of the WWE. Okay, I'm done. Get out of here.